Good. I'd like to call the September 20th, 2023 board meeting to order. And I'll ask each commissioner to please respond to the here when I call out their name. Commissioner Doan. Here. Commissioner Duggan. Here. Commissioner Fisher is with us remotely today. Are you there, Commissioner Fisher?
For the record, I believe Commissioner Fisher stepped away for a moment, but I will note his attendance when I see him log back on.
Sir, and Commissioner Lysick.
Here.
Fantastic. We'll start out this evening with reports by our interim CEO and management staff.
Well, thank you. Thank you, President Sanders. Real quick update tonight, just a few things to talk about. First, Camp Creek Fire, which occurred in the City of Portland's Bull Run watershed. As of today, the Camp Creek Fire is 62% contained, about 2,055 acres of fire itself. Crews expect the fire to continue to smolder in heavy fuels until there's significant rain that can extinguish it. But the risk of a rapid fire and expanding fire is minimal. And in fact, the response is starting to wind down, and crews are removing some of the equipment that no longer exists. So I don't know if there are any questions on Camp Creek Fire or further comments on that. Pete, if there are, I'll turn it to you. Any questions on Camp Creek?
One quick question. Is there any real concern of turbidity events generated as a result of the burned out areas and this coming fall rain?
Pete, can you address that first?
Yeah, we've been working closely with Portland, including up to this afternoon, talking about that exact possibility. So we're going to be in good shape supply wise. You know, we can shift our demands to the JWC and offload from Portland. They're installing some additional monitoring equipment so that they can get as much advance warning as possible if that were to start to develop. And they've been working with not only us, but all the wholesalers for how they could, you know, continue to meet all their demands in that type of scenario if the Bull Run had to be taken offline.
Thank you, Pete. Good news on the Taylor Ferry Reservoir project. You might remember that we were notified that we were receiving a grant from FEMA for the seismic improvements. Originally, the project was awarded a FEMA hazard mitigation grant that covered about 75% of the project cost, at $11.8 million. Now we've secured an additional $3.9 million, a combination of state and federal grants, so to cover the entire cost of the project. We're scheduled to go out to bid on this fall, and construction will begin soon after. So we're happy to report fabulous activity on the grant side.
Bravo team. That's.
Yeah, thanks to Nick Augustus, our CIP manager. He's been working this very hard and has been very successful. Thank you, Nick.
That's grant, not loan.
Yes.
Wonderful. Everything helps. With that, our department report tonight will be by our customer service manager, Andrew Carlstrom. Andrew, take it away.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, President Sanders, Board of Commissioners. Tonight's department report is, as you see, about the meter to cash cycle. This is probably review for some of you, and others maybe a little new. We're going to start with a summary of what is the meter to cash cycle, and in aggregate, the meter to cash cycle, these are the processes of enrolling customers and maintaining appropriate account data, reading meters, billing customers, receiving payments, addressing collections issues, providing refunds, and applying the payments to the proper accounting ledger. And as our IT services director might say, the meter to cash cycle involves all three of people, process, and technology. It strongly leverages highly trained staff, carefully designed business processes, and a wide array of technology solutions, many of which interface to our customer information system, or CIS. Order here. Want to get into a little greater detail on the water utility meter to cash cycle. We have 7 categories on the top. I'm going to go left to right. The first is Managing customer accounts and services. I'm going to give you just some examples of some of the processes that occur in these categories. Some of the examples would be move-ins and move-outs when customers move in or out of a residence. If our customer wants to start or stop service, payment assurance, creating service orders we do for the field, and also we manage customer data. Next category is reading meters. And it's as it says, and this is recording the meter reads and also uploading that data to our billing system, the CIS. Also involves the pre-bill stage of exceptions, and these are high and low exceptions. Also managing service orders that have already been created. Next category is calculating consumption and managing rates. Some of the process examples I have for you are calculating consumption based on meter reads, estimating consumption should we need to, whether that's snow or ice events we can't read because of smoke fires or other reasons. Also applying rates and also managing updates to our rates. Next category is preparing and delivering bills. And some of the process examples I have for you are running bill cycles, printing and mailing, doing the electronic bill presentment, doing bill adjustments, canceling and rebilling, and also bill exceptions. Next category is processing and recording payments. It's as it sounds. This is receiving payments from customers and processing from a number of channels and payment methods. It could be payment cards, it could be ACH, cash, and through our lockbox services. Also managing accounts that have been finalized. Next category is managing credit and collections. Some of the process examples I have are delinquency processing, also notices, whether they be reminders, urgents, or shutoffs, and also return payments, making payment arrangements for customers that need to do that, processing bankruptcies, writing off accounts, and referring accounts to the outside collections agency that we contract with. And the final category is managing the general ledger and analysis of revenue. So like as it sounds, some of the process examples are making updates to the GL general ledger for AR accounts receivable, cash write-offs, making updates to payables, supporting the AR subledger detail, and also analysis for AR and revenue analysis. So these are some of the categories and examples of processes that occur high degree of complexity within the meter to cash cycle. Again, these all involve people, process, and technology. Go back just one here. Just give me a moment. Wanted to give you a brief overview of some of the items that occur in the customer service department that relate to the meter to cash cycle. And we covered some of this in the budget workshop. We have 5 essential functions in the customer service department right now. We have the contact center, we have utility billing, field customer service, which includes meter reading and field services, CIS, the customer information system, and conservation, which now also includes AMI. And these are closely linked customer-focused department functions. We're one, but not the only department whose work is essential for the meter to cash cycle. We work closely with other TBWD work groups, especially finance, IT services, communications and engineering. We also work directly with vendors, and we have a number of vendors that provide services essential to the cycle. First and foremost is our CIS vendor. We also have a payment processor, we have lockbox services, we have a bill print vendor, we have our phone system vendor, notification services, that could be call, text, or email. And we also have meter testing and outside collections agency. We also work very closely with partner agencies, and 2 I want to call out here are Clean Water Services and the City of Beaverton. And on Clean Water Services, just as a reminder, we are the co-owners with them of the new CIS solution. We have a really strong relationship with Clean Water Services. Joint billing provides value to the customers and the community in terms of economies of scale, and we collaborate very closely with them. So I'm gonna just fast forward here. So I'm gonna look at here for you the TBWD priorities and the meter to cash cycle. As interim CEO Paul Matthews described to employees this week, are some of our key priorities are maintaining daily operations, successfully completing the WWSP, and stabilizing and maximizing the new CIS. All three of those play a part into the meter to cash focus areas that we're looking at going ahead. We're in the continuous improvement phase of CIS. We're standing up this fall, and we don't know if that'll go into the winter as well. A new customer assistance program, that's a 20% bill discount, which was recommended by the rate advisory committee. We're conducting a monthly billing pilot. We need to develop a new joint billing IGA with Clean Water Services. We need to continue to support customers while reducing the AR. We are going to be conducting a contact center assessment study with recommendations. And this is an item we put in the budget to both optimize the contact center operations, but also prepare us for handling a large volume of calls and different types of calls down the road when we have the transition to the new water supply. And finally, and not least, is advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI. So updates to you will focus on these areas, at least from the customer service department. So my last slide here is the monthly billing pilot. Just as a reminder, this monthly billing was recommended by the first rate advisory committee. We deferred this until we implemented a new CIS. There are a range of approaches you can take to monthly billing. There are interim, there are long-term solutions. We need to weigh customer experience strongly and how we approach this. But manual reads, AMR drive-by radio reads, and AMI can all provide meter data for conducting monthly billing without resorting to estimating or bill splitting. So that's what we're focusing on for the pilot. We're conducting actual reads. Fortunately for this area, it's almost entirely AMR, drive-by radio reads. We're conducting it with 563 customers. And the update is that the first bills had gone out. They went out mid-September, and we've already identified the staff level metrics that we're going to be tracking for measuring the pilot success, both for the pilot area and also for a control area. That is my update for tonight, and I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have.
It's been a rough transition with our customer billing system, and I know that there have been real pressures put on staff to deal with difficult customers, our accounts in arrear, all those I guess ongoing issues that make life difficult for staff. And then I look at your list of things that are still left to be done, and that looks pretty daunting. Is there anything that the board could do to make that list less daunting? I know that we put on customer service going to monthly billing. We've looked at 7 different ways a Sunday of doing that. I'm sure staff has tried to figure out a bunch more. But going to monthly billing is going to be a huge, huge transition. And everyone likes the idea of the end goal of all these supposed benefits that we think we might get when we go to monthly billing. But getting to that point is going to be pretty tough. I've looked at all of the literature that AWW put out on utilities that have gone through this transition, and no one that has done estimates. You know, you talk about estimates for winter ice events and things like that. That's understandable, but any other way of doing monthly billing without having monthly reads or AMI, it is fraught with customer misunderstanding and just horrible experiences for customers. Can the board lessen that load by saying maybe we aren't as aggressive getting to customer billing or monthly billing, as long as we know that that's our end goal, because you have so much on your plate, and that's a long way of asking, can the board do something different so that you don't have that daunting list for customer service?
I appreciate you asking the question, both on behalf of customers and on her staff. When it comes to estimations, we haven't found either in case studies or with vendors or with other utilities that we've connected with through the CSV conference, a recommendation of scaling estimations. And another methodology that is sometimes mentioned in utility billing circles is bill splitting. Similarly, that can also be problematic from a customer experience standpoint. Estimations, if you ask staff, can often be very confusing for customers. And the thing that's not on the list here is also bill redesign. And so, some of these items require, and bill redesign is not a simple aesthetic redesign because it has to integrate with CIS. It's quite involved. So the fact that you're asking the question is a help, and I appreciate that. But I think that we'll need to discuss your question at the leadership team level with interim CEO Paul Matthews. Thank you for asking.
Is that was my real motive, is to let you know that the board, at least this board member, is locked in on, we got to get to monthly billing as quickly as possible, because there could be so many other unintended consequences that I'm open to listen to other solutions.
So if I could just add to what Andrew said, we, as a leadership team, are going to be looking at where we are with the various initiatives we have, prioritizing them, doing an assessment of the resources that we have, both time, money, and staff, and coming back to you with a proposal of really what our next steps are, how we can track and monitor that, make sure that we're making progress on the most important things to the community, as communicated to us by our board. So that's something that we're planning to undertake in November. I know it seems like that's a month and a half away, but to be honest with you, that's just right around the corner for us. And we got a lot going on. So we really want to do that and bring a fresh start of how we're going to get done, what we're going to get done, when we're going to get done, and put together a plan that's going to be executable.
Great, thank you.
So we can, excuse me, so we can expect some reprioritization of stuff to make it fit.
So Commissioner Dillon, what I anticipate happening is we will go through our staff level analysis and do that comparison, looking at the resources and the requirements, and bring a proposal to the board of what we think is a priority and present that to you, probably in a series of workshops. We haven't figured all this stuff out because we haven't done the work yet, but literally present that to you and get feedback so we can make sure that we're in alignment with your priorities.
The fact that we said, let's do this 6 months ago doesn't necessarily mean let's do this now. But I want an overall prioritization of stuff that we can logically do in a stepwise manner and get to it. And I don't want to push when I don't know anything about it. This is really cool stuff. It's like, the general says, the colonel do this, and the colonel eventually finds a master sergeant somewhere. But I just want to make sure that people have enough breathing space here to do the job they want to do.
Commissioner Dillon, first, appreciate that. And one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that the resources align with it. So if we do this, we can't do that. We need to present to you what the trade-offs are so you can make informed decisions what the district's priorities are. If that's the homework that we still need to do a little bit more on, as we've got a little bit better information on what the requirements are, that then can give us the schedule. So we'll put together a proposal. We're still trying to get our arms around where that's going to land. So it's very premature right now, but we know we have some work to do in that area.
I'm really pleased to hear that analysis is taking place.
We appreciate the opportunity to explain it and actually your support in that area. So I appreciate both your questions. Andrew, is there anything else that?
Nothing else from you.
Well, that concludes the CEO.
I will just make an observation. Before I started reading through the packet, I had no idea the tree this thing was driving. I mean, there's zillions of pieces of this thing. running around. And I don't know, I've been in the business now for half a century. And I just didn't, this was never in my portfolio. And I hadn't realized all the subtleties that are required. And so I appreciate that.
If I could just respond to that, Paul. I read a quote once that was attributed to a utility executive, and the quote was, "Utility billing is rocket science."
Oh, man. Right on.
All right, thank you, Andrew. That concludes the CEO report for this evening.
Thank you. Next item is our commissioner communications and reports of meetings attended. Commissioners now report on recent meetings attended. We'll begin with Commissioner Doe.
Waiting for the caption to catch up. Okay, there we are. So this is me. All right. It's very interesting. On September 3rd, I got a letter from the people who give engineering licenses in California. And they thanked me for protecting the people of California for 50 years since I got my PE. And I thought, well, I left after 3 years, so, it was a long time ago. But I thought it was cool. Anyway, I only had a few meetings. I had the regular meeting today. I went to a seminar of dam safety engineers, and the topic was how to avoid making bad risk decisions. And they had all these examples of people who, fortunately they're all dead now, but they made bad risk decisions. And then the work session on the 5th. But no, it was very interesting. I thought, there but for the grace of God would I go. And yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Doe. Commissioner Duggan.
On the 17th of August, I attended the virtual open house on our Talking Water regarding rates. On September 12th, last Tuesday, I attended Washington County CPO #1, where there were a lot of local updates, and Justin and David from, not that David, but David M., and I can't pronounce his last name. Marciniak, thank you. I would mispronounce his name guaranteed. Both did an excellent job of presenting the status of the water supply project. Did a great job and fielded some really interesting questions from a very well-educated audience that were attending. On the 13th, last Wednesday, was the Regional Water Providers Consortium Executive Committee, where we got our regular update on the consortium's activities, and also an ask for us on the executive committee to talk to our partners in trying to recruit a new at-large member for the executive committee for next month's full Regional Water Providers Consortium board meeting. And hopefully we can get some candidates. And I was hoping that staff could contact their counterparts at our Washington County or otherwise partnered agencies and see if they might have their elected want to volunteer for the executive committee. I don't have any personal relations with any of the folks anymore, unfortunately, or I would make that outreach possible, but I don't want to get crosswise with any of our existing partnerships or where things are going by trying to twist the arm of someone to give up more of their time. But maybe it might be in the seen from a staff level that they can see value in participating in the Regional Water Providers Consortium. And then this evening's meetings. That's it for this last month.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Fisher, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. Do you have your meetings report ready?
Let me get the sheet in the right frame of the screen. So it's been sort of a busy month for me since we last met. I spent several days at the American Water Works Association Water Infrastructure Conference, and so that took up 3 or 4 days. Heard some really great speakers on some very interesting topics, ranging from resiliency and security to learning about how bigger municipalities worked on repairing the environment. I think one of the best parts of the conference was a tour of the historic Philadelphia Waterworks site, which was constructed sometime in the late 1700s and used throughout the years and remade to fit the times and the science. And now it's a museum that the Waterworks uses to educate the public and also host events. Like, I mean, we were there, they were giving us the private tour on the day that it's normally closed, and there was a wedding, reception going on. So it was just really cool to see that, and they're, trying to lean forward into conservation and to helping rebuild the river, or to help, you know, get the pollution out of the river that the city had contributed for so many years. Listening to people talk from around the country, it sounded like, every town has their pollution in paradise story, like we had in Portland. And so what the Waterworks and their team are doing is they're growing mussels at the Waterworks facility to reintroduce into the river to create natural filters for the river. So that was really cool. I had a phone call with Commissioner Sanders at one point, and then I attended the Westside Economic Alliance forum to hear an update from Congresswoman Bonamici. And then also Congresswoman Andrea Salinas had a town hall at the Tigard Library that I also attended. And then I'm here at tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Interesting, because in Michigan, or Lake Michigan, all the Great Lakes, they're trying to get rid of the mussels because the mussels are filtering out all of the sediment.
You have to, it's all about which mussel you're trying to help.
Right on. Well, thank you for that. Commissioner Lysak.
On the 17th, I attended the Talking Water, the Rates Virtual House. And then on the 21st, I had a call with President Sanders talking about regional other water providers in the region. On the 28th, I had another call with President Sanders where we were discussing temporary legal counsel for the district. On the 15th, another call with President Sanders, planning for the executive session following tonight's meeting, and then tonight's board meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Lysak. And for myself, just heard Commissioner Lysak talk about some of the times that we talked. Let's see, page 1. I had some meetings with members of the leadership team on August 18th, 21st, 22nd, 24th, 25th, 28th, 28th. On the 29th, met with West Slope Board Chair. On the 30th, attended the City of Beaverton's e-bike tour on the West End. Got to ride my first e-bike experience, which, remember, if you turn it on, it's really easy to ride. If you don't, you think, man, this thing is heavy. You're like, well, I don't get it. I don't understand why this is so much fun. But then when you push the on button, it just cruises along. So that was interesting. That was fun. I got to spend the day with most of the board council members for the City of Beaverton, plus the mayor, plus Washington County Commissioner Pam was there as well. On the 7th, talked to our Chief Operating Officer. I think Commissioner Doan mentioned that. On the 12th, talked to our COO again. I got 4 dates with the West Slope Board President, trying to set up a meeting and agenda and finding a facilitator for that meeting. And then starting about the 15th through the 19th, daily conversations with members of our leadership team. And today, and then also a series of meetings with a lobby consultant that we just hired recently, and 2 meetings with CFM, and we'll be meeting again with CFM starting next week. So, you know, I think I didn't count, I have 3 pages, but I don't remember. Because, you know, just is. All right, so that being said, let's move on to topics to be raised by the commissioners. Do we have any topics to be raised by commissioners at this time? Okay, not happening. We'll move on to public comment. Public comment time is set aside for persons wishing to address the board on items on the consent agenda and matters not on the agenda. Additional public comment will be invited on agenda items as they are presented. Do we have any people this afternoon who are interested in presenting staff?
We have one attendee online. If you wish to submit a piece of public testimony, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll give you a few seconds here. I believe they're just here to watch and listen, so I don't see any public comments online.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll move on then to our business agenda or consent agenda first. Our consent agenda items are considered to be routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any board members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion will be considered immediately after the board approves those items, which do not require discussion. This evening, we're approving the August 16th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. And so that point, now I'll now ask for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lysick, I second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. The motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to our business agenda. Our business agenda this evening will be consider resolution establishing water rates and other charges for the Tualatin Valley Water District with an effective date of November 1st, 2023, with staff report by Paul Matthews.
President Sanders and Commissioners. Apologize up front. The presentation I'm about to give you tonight, we've all seen several times before, but we want to get in the public record, so we're going to go through much of the information yet again. So tonight we are proposing, after several steps, the final step of the process, an increase in our water rates for the typical single-family residential customer. That'd be a customer using 700 cubic feet per month. We'd see an average monthly bill increase of $50.53 November 1 of this year, followed by $15.04 November 1 of 2024. So that's for that typical single-family residential customers with a 5/8 inch meter and 700 cubic feet of water per month. Now, most of our customers are billed bi-monthly, but we present the information here on a monthly basis to make it more comparable to other utility bills they pay. As we undertook the rate process and had outreach to our customers, there were 4 concerns that we addressed and questions that our customers had. And I'll cover each one of these very briefly in tonight's presentation. But first concern was how will the community benefit from the current investment that we have in the Willamette? During the series of open houses we had and the public hearing that we had last month, we had Dave Kraska help explain the benefits of that to the committee. I'll cover them briefly tonight. The other question is, are we managing our cost properly? And both Dave and I talked about that to the committee. Are all of our customers paying their fair share, including corporations, when it comes to the cost for our facilities and for our services? And then the last concern was that some of our neighbors may not be able to afford these necessary increases in the investments that we're making, and what can we do to help them? So the resolution that you passed in July directed staff to undertake a public outreach process. We did that by a series of open houses. We had a public hearing last August at your regular meeting. We provided a postcard to all customers consistent with Oregon law that explained the time and place of that public hearing, but also give an opportunity to participate in the open houses. And we also took public comment on July 24th, and that has been provided to you, as well as comments that we received subsequent to that public comment where you received all that. So this is the final step. This is tonight's meeting where you can be asked to consider the resolution that will set those water rates. The major drivers for TBWD's rates are really the construction projects we have ongoing. We'll talk a bit more about that on the water supply, but we also need to maintain and operate our water system. And like all businesses and households, we've seen increases in our costs because of inflation. And the last time there was purchased water, we did see about a 26% increase in the cost of water that we purchased from the city of Portland, and that also had an effect on us. But as I said, the principal driver is our near-term infrastructure investment. And presented here is that infrastructure investment. The dark area down at the bottom represents a large investment within the district for its capital improvements. The blue area is the water supply system. And that dark area down the bottom also includes the Mesker Pipeline East, which is being delivered to the district by the water supply program. But nevertheless, it's part of our in-district CIP since that's an asset we will own alone. So as you can see, the district has historical high levels of investment that's needed during this biennium, and these water rates will be necessary part of funding that. We are using long-term debt. Actually, several of our customers asked us if we would be using bonds to help secure this, and the answer is yes. It's very advantageous for us to use debt and not just rate increases to fund this. So the area that you see here, the chart that you see here includes that capital expenditure that I talked, but it also has some bars that overlay that. Those bars are our planned use of long-term debt. The first one you see there is completing the draw on our WIFIA loan, which is that low interest loan that we got from the Environmental Protection Agency. WIFIA is the Water Infrastructure and Finance and Innovation Act. It's a 1.35% interest rate on that loan, so we're using that first. The second then is a future bond issue that we plan. It'll be depending on market conditions and depending on cash flow need. But sometime in this biennium, about another $130 million of money that we will be borrowing to fund that. $120 million for capital projects, and then the other $10 million will be for capitalized interest and some other things. We continue to pursue federal grants. I mentioned earlier this evening in the CEO report that we are successfully got an increased net grant for the Taylor Ferry project, but right now we have $4 million of grants for the treatment plant through the water supply system, $5 million for AMI, and as I mentioned earlier, now outdated, this 11 million is actually higher because we're looking at an entire 100% grant for the Taylor's Ferry facility. We did talk to the public about how we're managing cost. And first of all, we did cut $50 million of project cost out of the water supply system earlier. We maximized competition. In fact, the program is very deliberate in setting up its bid packages to make sure that it could attract both national and local bidders to maximize the competition for those projects. And that's been successful. We negotiate the best prices and quality of services and goods. Make cost-effective engineering design decisions. It's an important aspect of it. Proactively manage risk early. We partner on projects, and we spend a lot of time discussing some of those partnership opportunities and how that saves our customers money. But most importantly, at the end is we rigorously manage all aspects of the program schedule. And Dave Krask would explain to us and has explained in the past that if you want to manage costs, you've got to manage the schedule. If you don't manage the schedule, cost will be very difficult to manage. In addition to those items, we also want to talk about our operating expenses. So we just completed the final fiscal year of the last biennium. We managed to bring in the budget $12 million underspend on the operating budget side. And just as an example of that, we have an innovative health care plan for our employees where we have a high deductible plan. The district self-insures for part of that. And we have a wellness incentive for our employees to manage their healthcare cost. We actually saw a 4.5% reduction in our healthcare rates during the most recent renewal. And that's at a time when most businesses are seeing the cost of employee healthcare climbing dramatically. So we're proud of that. We've deferred capital improvements. We've partnered with other agencies, including, as Amy Paulson talked about earlier, our partnership with Clean Water Services, where we're able to save a significant amount of money on the cost of mailing and billing our customers. And the last thing I want to mention is looking for other resources. So one of the things that we've talked to the public about is we earned about an extra $6 million on interest earnings by changing the strategy that we have on drawing our WIFI loan earlier. Put that into productive investments in very low risk U.S. treasuries and agencies. We earned about an additional $6 million by doing that. And that's, again, money that offsets the cost that we need to raise. And of course, then the federal grants that I talked about earlier, including that augmentation of that federal grant for Taylor's Ferry. Dave explains quite well, and I've heard him talk about this, the Mission for the Water Supply Program. I'm not going to read it here. You've heard him do it. He's got a better voice for this kind of a discussion, more of a baritone voice, I would suspect. But it's important that we stay on task and get this program done by July 2026. We also explain to the public the elements of the water supply program. So Dave's very effective at explaining how the system works and all the infrastructure that we're building that will provide that seismically resilient system that we're looking at. So we talked about the new seismic guidelines and how important that is to the public. And the last thing that we want to emphasize is the impact it has on the local economy. So far, about 78% of the spending has been local, 11% is regional, and 11% outside of Oregon, Washington. So we're happy that we continue to see that we're having a positive impact on the local economy by spending 78% of that money in a local way. But the other question that we have is, are all of our customers, including corporations, paying their fair share? It's important as we ask customers to pay more that we demonstrate to them that everybody is, in fact, paying their fair share. Presented here is a graph that shows the number of customers, percentage of customers that we have. About 95% of our customers are single-family and multifamily customers. If you look at our industrial customers, there are 23 of them. It doesn't show up even as a decimal point there. So you can see the allocation of customers. When we look at the revenue, those 23 customers provide about 8% of the district's water rate revenue. And that's fair and equitable. We use a cost of service methodology to make sure that everybody pays their fair share. We update that on a regular basis. I want to show an example of an industrial customer's bill. This is a bill for one of our industrial customers, and you can see that their monthly increase will be about $44,000 in November of 23 and $43,000 in November of 24. So in fact, everybody is paying their fair share. And that's because we do follow industry standard approaches, a cost of service basis for setting rates that ensures that customers do pay in proportion to the cost they impose on the system. It's designed to avoid subsidies among customer classes. And also we use system development charges. That's a one-time capital charge that we assess when new customers connect to the system to make sure the growth pays for itself, so our existing customers aren't subsidizing the growth in the community. In addition to that, we also updated some of our other fees and charges. These are miscellaneous charges. Although they may not seem significant, it is important that we continue to charge these and meet these fees aligned to our costs so we can avoid those subsidies. That is included in the rate resolution and the details we talked about last month. And then finally, some of our customers, some of our neighbors can't afford these investments that we're making. What can we do for them? And we did analysis, and you all remember that Dr. Manny Theodore came in and did analysis of our system. Most of our customers can't afford the increase in water rates. It's not fun, it's difficult, but they can afford it. But some of our customers cannot. We convened the Rate Advisory Committee, who made recommendations to the district's Board of Commissioners. In fact, you included this in the district's adopted budget to establish a customer assistance program to help those vulnerable customers. There were two questions we asked the Rate Advisory. One was about the affordability, and they gave you a unanimous recommendation on that, on the Rate Advisory, on that proposal. Presented here a list of people who participated in the Rate Advisory Committee. We purposely had a very diverse group of citizens and customers. that helped us establish that recommendation to the board. If I know many of you participated and attended those meetings, it was extremely satisfying to see our citizens volunteering their time to help us develop a assistance program that was going to be effective and meaningful. So we're thankful for their contributions of time and their talents. So a couple of questions that we need to identify. First of all, who can qualify for the assistance program? In this case, the recommendation of the Rate Advisory Committee is that it be for customers who truly are low-income customers. We looked at the low-income, the federal low-income home energy assistance program, the so-called LIHEAP program, as a qualification basis. That is for customers who are about 60% of the median household income for Oregon, they qualify. We felt, or the Rate Advisory Committee felt, that having a common qualification like that would make the burden of qualifying less. So as customers can qualify for that program or SNAP program or something that even has a lower threshold, they would automatically qualify for our customer assistance program. A lot of discussion on how that assistance should be provided, and the recommendation, again, the unanimous recommendation of the Rate Advisory Committee was to make a 20% discount on the bill. The thought was that for larger families or customers who live in houses that they may rent and don't have as much investment in the energy or water efficiency of those homes, that they may need a greater assistance. So by making it a percentage, it helped protect those large families and those people in older homes. And the last element was, how do we fund the customer assistance program? And the recommendation was that the cost of program should be borne by all customer classes, all customers, in proportion to the fixed and volume charges. So it's an overall assessment on the district's revenues. So with that, I wanted to talk about the rate proposals that we have. The district charges both a fixed charge, a fixed monthly amount, as well as a volume amount based on the amount of water used. The fixed charge is based on the size of the meter. Now presented here are the monthly charges that I mentioned earlier. We do bill most of our customers on a bi-monthly basis, but again, to make it comparable for our customers, we present all these on a monthly basis. They can compare it to other utility bills they receive. In addition to that, we have the volume charge. The district's cost of service is designed to have a 2-block structure. This is to, again, to achieve the cost of service. So customers who provide a greater peak on the district system and have a greater impact on our cost pay more in proportion to the cost of serving them. For single-family residential customers, the block 1 rate is up to 14 CCF or 1,400 cubic feet per month or 2,800 cubic feet over a 2-month period. Any consumption beyond that then would be at the higher block 2 rate. For non-single family residential customers, it's actually 140% of their average annual consumption, where they would then go into the higher block rate. We looked at impacts on customers, and I mentioned this at the very beginning of the presentation. For that typical single family customer, that's a customer with 7 CCF per month, 14 over that bi-monthly period, the increase is about $50.53 this November 1, and then followed by $15.04 November of 2024. We also looked at a customer that uses more than the typical, and that would be somebody that might use 12 CCF per month or 24 CCF over a 2-month period. That's 9,000 gallons of water, about 37 tons of water. Explain that to the customers. That's quite a bit of water to move around. It'd be an increase of $23.28 this November, followed by $22.54 in next November. And for a customer that uses a lot of water, a high customer that uses 28 CCF per month, 56 over a 2-month period, that's 20,000 gallons of water per month or 87 tons of water per month. You'd see an increase of $57.18 per month this November, followed by $55.50 in the following November. So with that, I think we addressed the concerns that our customers had during the open houses. We stayed to answer questions, and in fact, I think that customers were satisfied that all 4 of these concerns were addressed. Now, it doesn't mean people are happy with the outcome, but it does mean that they understood what we're doing and that we have an effective way of addressing these Based on that, staff's recommendation to the board is to adopt resolution 1423, a resolution establishing water rates and other service charges for the Tualatin Valley Water District with an effective date of November 1, 2023. That I can answer any questions that you might have.
Not hearing any questions, Paul.
Not hearing any questions, Paul. Thank you. At this time, then I'll have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 14-23, the resolution establishing water rates and other charges for the Tualatin Valley Water District with an effective date of November 1st, 2023. Can I have a motion and a second to approve?
This is Commissioner Joan, so moved.
This is Commissioner Fisher. I second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Fantastic. The motion passes. Thank you, Paul. We'll move on to the business agenda item B, which is the City of Beaverton meter reading agreement with a report from Clark Bell.
Be like Commissioner Doan and see how it tees up. There you go. Okay. So no slides tonight. It's a simple agreement. It's an agreement that so for years, since at least 2012, and I think it goes back before that, we have read meters for the city of Beaverton. It's a situation where we send our folks over, we read meters, provide the data to them. They reimburse us for our actual costs. And we've done this on a year-to-year basis for over a decade. We were looking at the agreement and decided that it needed to be tuned up a bit. And so we've done that. That's what's before you. It's essentially the same agreement with some very minor modifications. And so that agreement will have a term from now when you approve it to July 31st of 2024. However, it does provide for yearly extensions if it's mutually agreed by both parties. So the reason I bring that up is Beaverton has also indicated that on or after July 31st of next year, they're going to provide their own meter reading services with their own personnel. So we've started some conversations with them about what will they need from us in order to make that transition. We're waiting for a list of items that they might need. Paul Matthews is CFO, has interacted with his counterpart at the city, who has done this kind of conversion before in another job situation that she had. So we feel confident that the city is going to be able to move forward, have this in place. But if not, we may continue a little bit beyond that July 31st date. But for planning purposes, this agreement should be at an end by next summer. So with that, we'd ask you to approve, and we're ready for questions.
Is it just, the city asserting it's what it wants to do? I assume we did not goof things up, but I assume they're just pushing like they always have.
I don't know that I can answer that. I'll defer to the CEO.
You bet. So Commissioner Doan, I did have a conversation with their finance director, and she did this more than once at another situation she was in for other cities. So no, this is no reflection of the professionalism of our meter readers. They provide excellent service to the city. This is an initiative they have to bring more of those services in-house.
Okay. Thank you.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway for the benefit of the record. Are we reading Beaverton's meters monthly right now?
That is correct, Commissioner Duggan. We read their meters monthly. We charge them based on the cost of doing it monthly, but yes, it is on a monthly basis.
With them taking over that duty, that should free up meter reading time on our behalf. Have staff looked at the possibility of maybe, as that transition takes place, perhaps the district offer monthly meter reads to those people that would like to have a monthly bill, but the district could develop a surcharge to offer that service and then find out how much that would cost. Now, I'm being kind of facetious here because I'm sure the cost of having a monthly bill would be a deterrent to people requesting that. But I'd also like to keep our meter readers employed as long as possible because their time is limited, probably in the next 10 years. There'll be different duties and maybe not as labor intensive or as time intensive. So I'm looking at every possibility, and I don't know if staff has looked at this or not, but yeah.
So Commissioner Duggan, we haven't looked at that possibility because meter reading, to be efficient, you really need to go house to house to house, and driving over town would be very expensive. But the good news is that because when the Willamette water supply system comes online, we're going to need to staff to provide those additional services that frankly the city of Portland is providing for us now largely. So we're going to be needing those meter readers to migrate into a new position within the district. So nobody is at risk of losing their job. That isn't something that will happen. This will be actually a smooth transition. We haven't got all the details, but we know that in this labor market, we aren't interested in losing any of our employees.
The answer that I expected. Thank you.
Not hearing any other questions. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 15-23, a resolution approving the intergovernmental agreement between the Tualatin Valley Water District and the City of Beaverton for meter reading services?
Commissioner Lysick, so moved.
This is Commissioner Duggan, second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion passes. Thank you. Final item on our business agenda this evening is the TVWD naming proposal for a facility, and we'll receive a presentation from our Chief Operating Officer, Pete Boone.
Thank you, President Sanders and Commissioners. So as you've directed staff to do, we've been working on the concept of dedicating and naming one of our facilities after the late Commissioner Dick Schmidt. So we have been working with his family on this concept. They were very appreciative and honored that we were considering this. And the name that they prefer is Commissioner Schmidt's full name of Richard D. Schmidt. And then you can see it on the screen there that the proposed title is the Richard D. Schmidt Willamette Supply Facility. So acknowledges his name, his service, and his commitment to supporting the Willamette Water Supply project. So as you know, this facility that we're considering naming is nearly complete. Construction is almost done. And actually, we're looking to be commissioning that facility here in the next few months. It will be an entry point for the Willamette Supply. We will control pressure and flow and add fluoride to that water like we do for our customers in the Wolf Creek service area. So this is a rendering of what that proposed name would look like on the building. This photo is a couple months old. If you drive by this facility at 209th and Farmington, you can see it. The site's looking very good and cleaned up. And so if the board would like to follow staff's recommendation and dedicate this facility in honor of Commissioner Schmidt, then we would proceed with preparing that sign.
This is Jim Dillon. I would so move. I think it's a great honor for Commissioner Schmidt.
Commissioner Duggan, I second, and it's a fitting tribute.
Yeah, it looks great. It really looks fantastic. So thank you for the work. All right, so do I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 16-23? A resolution to name the 209th Avenue and Farmington Road facility in honor of Richard D. Schmidt. You already do. Thank you. I'm just blindly reading my script without listening. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. That is the last item on our agenda this evening. So unless there's anything else that we need to discuss, this meeting is adjourned.
And for the record, we will be entering into an executive session, and we're calling that executive session under ORS 192.6602H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Additionally, an executive session of the board will be called under ORS 192.6602F to consider information or records that are exempt from public inspection, and ORS 40.225 attorney-client privilege.
Clark, under these Oregon statutes, are we welcome to bring the entire leadership team into the meeting for a few minutes? Or is that?
Yeah, you're free to invite into executive session, whoever from staff that you want. I think